What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Brujo 101. I am your host, Martin Moreno, and I'm joined by my co-host, Thanya, a.k.a. Ashe from Ashe Imports.
Hi, everybody.
And we have here joining us Mr. Arthur Gonzalez.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for coming. And actually, before we get started, I want to give Ashe Imports a shout out. If you need crystals, if you need sage, if you need whatever your needs are, go visit Ashe Imports on Instagram as of now, because the website is under construction.
Yes.
But you can, and I got to tell you, dude, not just because you're my co-host and we have Brujo 101 here, but your prices are beyond fair. Everybody at this time is capitalizing. It's almost like Pride Month. You know, everybody's selling
a shirt.
Everybody's selling a shirt.
Everybody,
all of a sudden, everybody's selling. It's like fucking weed. When weed went legal, all these asshole politicians that were like putting people in jail for marijuana are all of a sudden growing and investing and making money. And the people that, are like, hey, fuck the gays, all of a sudden, hey, we can sell a gay flag. We can sell a pride flag. Let's go capitalize on pride flags. And every asshole is selling. And look, if you've been an ally or supporting, it's one thing. But if you're just joining the bandwagon to make a profit, you're a piece of shit, right? And no, seriously. And I think it's the same thing with crystals and everything, all things spiritual. There's a big fad right now.
Yeah, totally.
And everybody is marking these things up in a ridiculous fashion. But at Ashe Imports, you guys do it out of love, and you do it out of respect for the craft. And again, your prices are beyond fair. You have different What do you have on Ashe Imports?
I have everything, but my prices are really fair because I check out everybody else's pricing. So like two things, I think everybody is jumped on the bandwagon with crystals and sage and this and that.
Do you have a rainbow crystal?
What I don't have
I
don't have a rainbow, but there's a rainbow in my heart.
You motherfucker!
There's a rainbow in my heart.
You toxic.
I am toxic. I am toxic. But anyhow, no. But what you have to be careful, besides the prices are fake. Like I've had people message me and they have a lot of colored glass, and then you can tell, right? Because they'll send me stuff and I'm like, that's not real. Some crystals do not. They're natural, so they don't bend the way some things that you see. They just, if it looks too perfect and it's too cheap, it's probably not real. But yeah, I carry a wide array of crystals. I have a lot of evil eye. Like I love evil eye jewelry. I love it. Like obviously, right? So I carry a lot of it, right? A lot of evil eye stuff. Somebody recently told me I don't carry anything for men at all, which is
sexist.
Very. So I did get a bunch of obsidian and tiger eye in Costa Rica. So I'm going to do like men's bracelets, and then all the beaded bracelets are made by hand, and then everything else, but we're really fair. Even our readings are $45. I know people who charge $150, $200, and the reading is just like not great, but I'm not knocking people who charge a bunch of money, because that's your own. I mean, I guess if you can, go for it, right?
Sure. If somebody's going to pay for it.
I'm not knocking the hustle. I'm just saying that.
Be careful what you buy, especially if they're raising these prices and giving you fakes. Come on, man.
And if the point of like bringing all of this to the masses, right, which is how I started, like we're going to do Santeria, now Brujo 101, trying to get it to everywhere to a level where everybody understands. I think that you have to make it affordable.
Sure.
Like, I have crystals are expensive. The larger you get, they're by the pound. I mean, I have huge pounds of amethyst that are in my house, but I mean, if you're spending $400 or $500 for a crystal that's this big, you might want to rethink it. That's all I'm saying.
Now, what about the intention and the magic that was put into that crystal? Can you put a price on that?
So I want to tell you that there is no price to put on magic. But if you're good at magic, I can make magic with this glass of water, and I don't need that. So if you're me, this glass of water works.
Amen.
And if you're someone else, I guess it doesn't. But yeah, visit us at Ached, DM me. The website's coming. But yes, but thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Of course.
Thank you.
Arthur, thank you for joining us here. And I got to say, I'm always curious when it comes to psychedelics and things like that. I experimented at a very young age, had some trippy trips with it, and so I'm a little biased when it comes to this, but I keep meeting and interacting with people who use these psychedelics and different drugs in order to not just function in society, but for spiritual growth.
Yeah.
We had Tumex in here, who's a big
There's
advocate
DMT.
for DMT and marijuana.
E-Zone likes to do everything. No, I'm just kidding.
not everything, but
it's just like mushrooms, right? He's open to mushrooms.
I'm open to mushrooms,
right?
and weed as well. Now DMT I've never tried, but I do want to try it. Obviously,
you're all in.
I'm in. I don't need to be convinced, but I want to hear your story, dude. We've talked briefly in the beginning, and you did mention that once you tried DMT, your experiences with psychedelics changed forever.
Yeah, I'll start by saying you made me think of something. So, trying them in the past and being biased about psychedelics, I think that a lot of my experiences have to do with the context of the setting. So, what's the setting? What context are we doing this in, and what's the intention behind it? And so, I don't know. I wasn't in the around in the 60s and 70s, so I don't know exactly what the mindset was. But now, what I see happening is people are approaching it. And I'll just say for myself, approaching it from a spiritual point of view, and I didn't expect that to happen. So, coming here to talk about ketamine, I told you earlier that for me, it's in the context, any psychedelic that I do now is in the context of having done ketamine, having a breakthrough, connecting to what I call the source, right? So I've had a shift in my perspective, and now when I do any kind of psychedelic, it's different for me because I'm seeking the sublime, nirvana. I'm seeking what to me is a union with the source.
Let me just ask right now. Ketamine, from what I understand, is a prescription drug, correct?
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was a psychedelic.
So it used to be a party drug.
Well,
back in
Special
the day.
K.
Yeah, Special K.
Special
back
K.
in
Now,
2000.
but also it was used to treat people with seizures, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know about seizures. I know it was used as an anesthetic, so they used it during. It's a dissociative, so technically it's not a psychedelic. It's classified as a dissociative, and it disassociates everything that we associate with our mind, right? So it was used to take people away from what's going on in front of them, to bring them in surgery, for example. Sometimes they'll use ketamine, to my understanding, to bring people to a certain state. To be operated on, right? They use it for animals.
It's like a horse tranquilizer. That's
yeah,
what
it's a horse
thinks,
tranquilizer.
Like Valium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lot, but it's a dissociative. Valium is a benzo, what we call a benzo, right? So that's for anxiety. Bless you.
Thank you.
This is a dissociative, and so it allows. It's so hard to describe, but the way I describe it, and it took me a long time to really be able to articulate this, but I call it going in the veil. So for me, it's when I go on ketamine, and I'm talking the treatment at the doctors, and we can talk about how it works, and I'll tell you about a little bit more about how the process went along. But in the beginning, we were getting sub or intramuscular injections of ketamine with the doctor under a psychiatrist care at a place here in Hollywood. That was a psychedelic center for healing, and a
psychedelic center for healing.
Yes, psychedelic center for therapy, I think is what it was called. California Center for Psychedelic Therapy or something to that effect. But they really had heart in it, and I can tell. And they changed my life. And so I started doing, I went to them, and I was in a bad place in life. And COVID had just hit, the pandemic. I was realizing my career wasn't where I wanted it to be. Life wasn't where I wanted it. I was losing myself. They came into my life, and I started treatments with them, and the first time I did it, I started crying. And what they do is it's sensory deprivation almost. So they do have music, but they cover your eyes with a blindfold. You lay on the couch, you're covered with the blanket, you're real comfortable. There's a therapist in the room with you the whole time, and they're playing beats, with ambient beats. You know,
Okay.
432 hertz, things like that. Like things that
Different
we listen to.
frequencies.
Yeah, different things to help the mind get to a certain frequency, a certain wavelength, so that we can operate in that level. So when we're there, and let's say we're at 432 hertz, we're listening to it, we're deep in the ketamine, you get so disassociated from everyday life, like from your mind, but you still have a slight sense of consciousness. So you're able to look at the world from a pushback point of view. So you're looking at the world over there.
Now this is after
the
the injection.
This is during the injection. So during the 45 minutes I'm out, I'm in a dream state. And I'm having visions in my dream, and I'm thinking about everything going on in life, and it's whatever my mind comes to me, whatever's going on in my life. But going in that place, I'm always, remember, because of the DMT, I'm seeking God. So immediately my intentions were to have a union with God, or to seek some sort of nirvana. That's what I want.
So hold on. So we're going to go back a little. So I know you, right? So you're my friend. So you were telling me you went to Christian school all your life.
Yes.
Okay. So you were raised Christian school,
Yeah.
Christian. Okay. So you're raised Christian. You're going to Christian school.
You are surrounded by Christians, by the way.
I am. It's because I need to convert every single one. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. It just happens. So you went to Christian school, and then, I mean, you're obviously gay, right?
Obviously.
Very handsome.
Obviously.
Nobody
does that
nobody
even
looks
mean?
this good.
What does that even
Nobody
mean?
looks this good and
You don't
takes care
think
of
there's
themselves.
ugly gay guys?
No. No, I don't.
You are so
Sexist.
sexist. There's some fails out there that like dick.
No.
Yes.
Not the way that the hetero are.
Oh,
No.
dude, come on.
Ever since I met Arthur,
Listen.
I want to give you a backstory. My mom met Arthur. To this day, my mother calls Arthur. She loves Arthur. She's like, Arthur always smells delicious. I love Arthur. I've never
There's stinky
that
gay
doesn't.
dudes.
No.
Stinky gay? No, they
Yes,
exist.
there are ugly,
guarantee
stinky
they do
gay
are-
guys.
They're rare, but they're out there.
They're, okay, I
think
haven't
it's-
met them, so I take it back.
I think that is so. Holy shit! Who are you right now?
So obviously you're handsome, so you're gay. So
Obviously you're handsome, so you're gay.
unavailable, you
No,
must be
so
gay.
how did that play into? Okay, so you're going to Christian school, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, because we've never talked about it, but I'm assuming that you knew that you like boys
Yes.
from right.
Yep.
So then that kind of goes into your whole spiritual. What's going to happen? Was it all like hell and damnation?
Yes, I mean, I wasn't allowed to be gay. I was in the closet, and I was made fun of terribly made fun of.
Made fun of.
Bullied for being feminine. So it started off, you were a girl when I was younger, very young. People didn't know the word fag. They didn't know these words. And then as we grew older, it turned into girl. You're acting like a girl. All my friends were girls. And then it turned into fag. And I was in the closet. We're going to private school. It's a small school of like 200 people, 400 people maybe.
Christian school?
Christian school, yeah. Riverside and then Covina. And I couldn't tell my
What
parents.
year was this, by the way?
I mean, I graduated high school 2000, so this was 4 years before, maybe 5
late
years
90s.
before.
Late
yeah.
90s?
Yeah, and that school's not around there anymore. But I couldn't tell my parents about it, and that's the shitty thing, is that I couldn't, because I was in the closet, and if they knew I was being made fun of, then to me, I'm like, they're gonna know I'm gay. And,
My goodness,
like,
so
how could
much
they not
has
know?
changed
But
from 2000 till now. Because now, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
it's just, I couldn't come out with it and come forward with it because I didn't want to come out of the closet, and it was so taboo back then. So for them to pay, such stupid money to go to private school, and for me to be made fun of on top of it,
Right.
my parents were pissed when they found out. My mom wanted to sue, and it had been past the statute of limitations to where she
Now
could
the
have
kids
done
were
that.
making fun of you, or the staff?
The kids were, and the staff did not stop it. And there were times when I would say they almost
encouraged it.
Yeah, I guess that's a word we could use for it. Yeah, maybe not encouraged it, but made it worse.
Tolerated it.
Yeah, made it a little worse.
Or
even,
like egged it on. Like,
made me feel bad about it because people didn't want to sit by me. So I remember the principal being like, I don't know where to sit you in my class because people don't want to sit by you, and it wasn't. It was just because.
Well,
I was just
gayness
socially
is
outcast.
contagious, bro.
Yeah, I was outcast.
You don't want to catch
I mean,
the
we're
gay.
all gonna get up and be gay right now from sitting
I
down.
mean, you probably already are. It's happened.
Probably.
I mean, I've got my hand.
Probably.
I put on this so at conversion camp, they gave me this lotion to protect me against the gay, because it goes airborne.
I
Yeah. The masks. No, the masks are slowing it down though. The masks are really slowing it down.
They're slowing down.
There we go.
We're all
the
masked.
So you're raised in Christian spirituality, right? Like in the Christian.
But not at home. In school, my parents did it for the academic part of it. So I wasn't raised in a religious home. Although my grandparents and I would say my grandparents, she says, God bless you, my grandma, every night. Grandpa was quiet. My mom, I wouldn't say is spiritual, but she goes to church now, which I'm very proud of her doing. But I was never a religious person. I pulled away from it and backed away from it growing up as a young adult. And I still don't consider myself a religious person. I'm not part of any religion, but I believe in all of the religions. And I think it all ties into the same thing. It's just each culture's manifestation of their root to the source, which is where DMT takes you, which is ayahuasca, the mother healing plant of the world, right? So for hundreds of years, they've been using this plant as the mother plant to connect you to the spirit. All the plants help us, just in different ways.
So you're raised. Well, you're not raised, but you're going to Christian school. Then you get out in the world, right? And the world is totally different than this little bubble of 400 kids, right? Yeah. So then you find your people, because everybody finds their people, right?
I found my people in the rave scene. I found my home in the rave scene. That was my home, and that's where a lot of psychedelics were had. So that's where I did introduced to ecstasy and acid and mushrooms, and I did all that for a while. I even was throwing parties for a while. I had a loft downtown. I started event producing and working with promoters and throwing parties, and then that stopped. And I met my husband. I grew up, went to work for the bank. So that's the transition out of there. Worked for the bank for a long time. It was a great career. But then I realized at the end that I was chasing money. And I had no heart in the game anymore. And I didn't, what am I doing this for? Is what it came down to at the end. And because she was with me at the end. So this is when all this spiritual earthquake was happening in my life. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm always the kind of person who thinks about everything so much. And I'm always philosophizing with friends. And I can't stop thinking about these big questions of life. And I know that psychedelics are a conduit or a path to where we need to go. And there are things that we're not meant to know as humans, and we'll never know, I think, and if we do, it's for a short period of time and we'll forget the amnesia. Sure. But that's where the psychedelics come in, and ketamine. Like, there's things that we need, that there's knowledge out there that I don't think we can get unless we use psychedelics, or we go to the old traditional methods of like yogic, breathing, pranayama, those Tibetan methods of getting to higher consciousness.
When you went to this institute in Hollywood, you said, do you need a prescription? Is it doctors? Who is administering these?
You have to get referred to be able to go there?
Yeah. So, and is that legal, to just say, hey, or is it like a treatment with a prescription?
Yeah. So it's a treatment with a prescription. The FDA authorized it off label, I believe, for treatment-resistant depression and PTSD. So treatment-resistant was the key word. Right. So people who have tried antidepressants, tried things that doesn't work, they still have anxiety, PTSD, depression. Without going into too much detail of how I got there, I had tried a little bit in that world, found them. I was on some psych meds. It was the worst thing in my life, worst thing ever. While I was doing it, we had we wanted to figure out what the perfect balance was, because I was classified as bipolar at the time, and which I think it had to do with just the world. We're emotional, and my emotions go up and down. And the world was crazy in 2020, but it was a prescription. So I sat down with the psych. There was an intake appointment. They assessed me. They came to the conclusion that yes, I'm a candidate. I would benefit from it greatly. I did right then and there. They write a prescription. I guess it is a prescription. They didn't give me a prescription, but it's it's documented as a medicine that's administered. So
because you can't go home at that point. At that point, you cannot go home and take it at home.
Right. Yeah.
So
you can't
at
go
that
home,
point,
it's there.
You have to be with someone. They're gonna sit with you, and they're basically, I guess, what I'm getting because. Is they're going to see how your trip goes, right?
Yes, yes.
What happens, because it lowers your inhibitions, right?
Yeah.
Or are you disassociated?
Well, it takes you on a journey in your mind of whatever's going on, and so because you're disassociated, you're able to look at life and everything that's going on, and as if they're a bunch of marbles, like that never-ending story movie of the memories. I don't know if you remember part 2. They had the memories that were in a ball, right? That's what it made me think of life in that sense, and my mom did it also, and she said the same thing. It's like everything's a dream. and you realize everything's a dream when you're in that state. And it really makes you think, like, did that really happen or didn't it? And that's why I said it's in the veil, because you're in this small space in between worlds of the possibilities of what can and what can't happen, the has and has nots, the maybe not. Like, it's all the
like
possibilities
the
are there.
The subconscious.
Yeah, like the quantum reality. Like, it could be A or B. Both are there. Like, it's just a matter of what our mind is pulling or what is manifesting through our consciousness and thoughts. And so when you're in that space, I'm able to look at everything going on in life without the bullshit in my head, the narrative going. That's what it does. It shuts the narrative down.
Shutting the narrative down is a very powerful statement, because I'm a firm believer that there's realities that not realities. There are scenarios that we play out in our head. Somebody could say something and we'll say, oh, they said this because they're thinking this, because this, because this, because this. None of that is real.
Yeah.
None of that. We put value into what people say, what people do, and we therefore create a narrative in our head that is like, you'd have to be a motherfucking mind reader to understand somebody's intention 100%.
Yeah.
You don't know what possessed them to say this, or why they did this, or why they did that, other than you swear in your head, oh, this motherfucker wanted to do this because of this or this, or oh, they wanted to do this.
You create a context.
You create a context, but it's none of it is real.
Even about yourself.
None of it is real.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of times you show up ready to, like, oh, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna give them a piece of my mind because blah 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 blah. And it's like, if you just shut up and let it manifest into what it really is going to be, then, because if you already show up putting a value to something and giving it a
power,
a meaning,
you're giving it power,
you're giving it power, and then it becomes that, even if it doesn't. Like, if somebody says, oh, you're a piece of shit, really, you want to see a piece of shit? All right, I'll become a fucking piece of shit. It literally, you are creating that reality.
Martin's
None of
over
that
here
is
And that's what
real.
you're talking about.
Martin's over here speaking of my heart. I'm on the screen. No, I'm just kidding.
So what he's saying is exactly what I mean. It's in there, and it's like, it could or couldn't happen.
Correct.
It's the world. It's every infinitude of possibilities that could happen. It's just, what are we bringing into the world through our thoughts? And that's why the narrative is so important. And so, and I have this thought, and I'll share it because I'm going to lose it, but I remember one of the biggest aha moments I had with my psychiatrist was, I told him, I said, I realized that it's not the ketamine that's healing me. The ketamine is just moving my consciousness away and shutting it down so that my body can heal itself. Spiritual wounds, like, our bodies are divinely built, and we know how to heal ourselves, but our consciousness gets in the way. We get in our own way of healing through our thoughts and the narrative going on about other people and about ourselves. So if that can shut up for a minute and you have a new perspective, and then later on when you're thinking about it, because it's not an overnight thing, it's a
process.
awarenesses, and
process.
shifts in life and paradigms, and it changes because you're looking at it differently now. Without all the bullshit in your head, and so I call it a divine healing of the body, or the mind, body, spirit is healing itself as it should. We're just in the way with our thoughts.
Our thoughts are our biggest detriment. They're our biggest obstacle, is our thoughts 90% of the time.
What's your biggest power too?
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
When you can get to nothingness, when you're shutting down all that noise, nothingness is the beginning of everything.
And that's the goal of meditation and yoga, right? In those practices, and now, like, getting away from ketamine, that's my goal. Like, I spent a lot of time really trying to do practices that quiet down the mind, because the Western mind is always trying to rationalize and make logic out of things. And I'm reading, my dad has always read Carlos Castaneda books my whole life, done the teachings of Don Juan, read them over and over. I just reread another one, and he talks about Don Juan, about we as Western people, we try to put words to things, to everything, and rationalize it. And there's a lot of wisdom that doesn't equate to words, that we cannot make sense out of, and we shouldn't try to. Like, there's things and there's information in the world and the universe that we can't explain verbally, and it's a Western idea to have to put words to it and to be able to describe it, because if we can't describe it, it doesn't exist.
It has to make sense to us.
Yes, or it doesn't exist, and that's not reality.
I think that, like, I remember because you came to the house, like, we had been talking, and then we had kind of briefly spoke, and you were like, I'm unhappy, and then you got a reading, and my mom was like, you need to be happy.
Yeah.
Do what you're gonna. Don't be scared. Be happy. Like my mom's like, fuck everybody, be happy. So she's like, be happy. And then I remember that you sent me a message after that, like a while after that, and you were like, I'm trying ketamine. I did ketamine. You're like, and I need to tell you something. Your mom is totally right. There is something else. Like, there's something else. And I connected to source. That's what you told me.
Yeah.
I connected to source. You're like, and I have to tell you about it. And I was like, okay. And the funny thing is, when you did tell me, you talked about it like a veil, like there was a veil.
Yeah.
And randomly, to show you that everything's a circle. In spiritualism, there's even a prayer that Allan Kardec, it's a prayer, it's one of my favorite prayers that we do in misas espirituales, that it says, the only thing that is separating you from your loved ones is a veil. And when that veil gets removed, you're able to go to the other side where they are. So there's only a very thin veil of what is real happening in the body and what is happening spiritually. But you changed like for the better, right? Like, I mean, you were always awesome, but you changed for the better because it was so light. Like, it was always so heavy. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. We have these deals. We're both in finance. We have these deals. And it was just always very like, oh my, and it was never enough. Like, I'm closing 10 deals. I'm closing 20 deals. I made 20 grand. Like, it was just never enough. And I feel like the other day when I went to your house and we were sitting in your lawn, we were just sitting there, right, listening to like meditation music, and I was like, remember I told you, I was like, this energy feels so different now. Like, the energy is so light. And I think that you're the second person who has told me that they tried to do like different antidepressants and it made things worse because it was very prescribed and no therapy was put behind it.
Right.
So then things would come up, like everybody has a past, and things would come up and then they would spin out. Like, it would spin out and it would spin out. And I feel like you're the second person who's told me that with ketamine, it was kind of like things came up and they were things that had to get dealt with, but it wasn't such a spin out. It was more like okay, I'm okay. It's over here, like there was like a distance
Detachment,
to it.
Yeah. Like it wasn't a crisis.
Yes,
like everything
that's
was a
what I wanted to say.
crisis when I was going through it. Everything was a crisis all the time. And then eventually I learned, I got the tools through therapy and through the ketamine and my own knowing myself, learning how just to deal with things and realizing not everything's a crisis. But it's a detachment, and it's still an ongoing battle. But I would attribute that to the ketamine. But again, it's so important to remember the context of going into it knowing it's sacred and seeking something sacred and not using it recreationally and not trying to get high and have fun, and because it's never been about that with ketamine or DMT or anything.
Okay, so I'm gonna be devil's advocate here. I don't see, so okay, I 100% agree that it is the intended use is a medicinal use, obviously, correct? So when you think about mushrooms and the place, because they originally came from Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, right? And it was in the 60s or 70s that they were studying it. They went over there, they saw this curandera lady who was a healer, and she was using this as a healing thing, and people started bringing it here as a recreational thing, and it became like, let's trip on this chingadera, right? But the purpose of it was to heal your DNA, to heal your inside, not just to heal, but to heal your mind, to heal all the damage from the past traumas and things. And I think that that's fantastic. But I also think by that same token that when you're and I believe the same thing for herb. I think that marijuana is a healing herb and a healing substance. Now, if you decide to use it recreationally, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's almost like sex. I feel that sex is for procreation. A lot of people would say it's only for procreation and you should not have fun with it. Go fuck yourself. I'm not gonna like stop it. That's
Great
crazy.
example.
And I feel the same way with psychedelics, with weed, just like I do with sex. Like, there's people that are from that school of thought that would say, if you're not using it for let's cut a hole on this sheet, we fuck, we don't even see each other's privates, and then we have a baby and that's it. And only when we're married. And that context is the only time we can fuck. Hey, wait a minute. I want to come when I want to come, and I don't have to get married to come.
Yeah.
I don't have to get married to feel pleasure, and I don't have to procreate. For crying out loud, I used to pull out before my vasectomy because I didn't want to procreate any more kids.
I like how you threw it out there. I now have a vasectomy. Nobody worry.
Yeah. No,
Nobody
now
worry,
I can
don't
just
worry.
fucking bust nuts
For
all
the
over the
record.
place. It doesn't
Nobody
matter.
worry. Nobody worry.
Okay, and so no, but what I'm saying is like and maybe I'm wrong, but I disagree with the fact that it's only for this. I think that it has a place and a value in more than a healing place.
No, I agree. And I guess I'll clarify. What I mean to say is for my experiences, for me, when I do it, and I do still use psychedelics recreationally. I won't say I won't. I just say that for me, because of my experiences with DMT, there's a part of me that's still seeking the holiness, even if I'm going to like drop Molly at a rave, which I'm going to do this summer because we're opening up, and I love MDMA. It's a beautiful psychedelic especially post DMT, right?
Sure.
So I'm also, not only am I dancing and having a great time and vibing and feeling that flow, but I'm also in the back of my mind, because I know now, I'm also like seeking that bliss that psychedelics give you, but I'm doing it recreationally too. And I think that you don't even have to like approach it as a healing thing, as a healing tool. It's great, but there's a recreational component for sure, like marijuana, just like you said. I mean, like, you know.
So I guess that it's like your life is kind of compartmentalized in that sense. Like you're going to go to the raves, and you love to go to raves, so you're going to do whatever there. But the ketamine part of it was for a purpose. There was a purpose in,
Yes.
and not just like a party purpose. I guess there's a purpose in partying too, right? So I don't do anything, right? Which I'm starting to think, well, I'm boring, according to Martin. So
No, don't say you were boring.
I'm gonna
Everybody
slam,
has a
I'm gonna
choice.
slam heroin because
Everybody
I just
has
need
a
to catch
choice.
up.
Everybody
No.
has a choice.
So no, I just don't. It doesn't attract me. But
Yeah.
I feel like I know a lot of people who do things just recreationally. Like there's not a purpose behind.
There's no
it.
value to it.
Yeah.
No, there's value because they're having a good time.
Or
I
I'm
think
saying not a value. There's no
purpose though.
There's no
like,
purpose. It's
like,
just random.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
do. I was in Costa Rica. There was all these people doing mushrooms. Nobody's looking for God. They're just
Yeah,
looking to get
yeah.
fucked up, right?
Well, what's interesting is you use the word connecting to source.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm really curious to say, like, some people will call it God. There was this big, uproar because in one of the graduations, somebody did the Pledge of Allegiance and they said one nation under Allah. And the thing went viral and people were like saying, wait a minute, why the hell are we throwing the Muslim God in here? It's one nation under God. And it's like, wait a minute. Well, Allah is just another word for
Yeah.
God. It
He
doesn't
could've
mean
said-
that
he
it's a
could've said
different
Buddha,
God.
he could've said
It
Alofi.
it doesn't matter what, and maybe I'm misspeaking, and I'm not the least person qualified to say this one is God and this one isn't God. But we get so caught up in that, and which I think is awesome that you said source,
Yeah.
because that's a very neutral
Right.
word. And I've read a lot of books on trying to evolve spiritually. And I was telling Hooter, we were talking on the Yo, and I said, now Brujo 101 is out there. Go check it out. It's a spiritual podcast. I'm on a spiritual journey, and just because I'm on a spiritual journey does not make me a perfect person. I am a flawed human being, and I fuck up more than I don't fuck up. But by the same token, it doesn't stop me from trying to attain spirituality and grow and feed my spirit, right? Yeah. And along those books, there's the teachings of Abraham, they said. And then we tend to think of Father Abraham in the Bible context. But when people talk about connecting to source, they say that they hear from Abraham. And they talk, and then they'll be writing, and all of a sudden they'll say,
Who says that?
There's this book called it's a blue, and I'll find the book.
Because I've never.
So it's the
interesting.
Abrahamic teachings. But anyway, Abraham is the one link between Christianity and Islam, right? They're both Abraham and Judaism. They're all Abrahamic religions. They all have Abraham in common. Correct? And so this Abraham is a figure all over the place. And then those people that say that they connected to source and the Abraham was talking
spoke to them.
Like that, yes. This is whoever the heck Abraham is, not necessarily putting them in the,
whatever context, but it was
but it was this Abraham. And they sit there and they'll say source. And I think it's interesting that you use the word source. Why did you use source? How was source explained to you, and what exactly is source? Because that can easily get
What's it to you?
Yeah,
right?
what is
Of
it
course,
to
it's
you,
all
or how
relative.
do you understand it? Explain it to myself, and then also to the people who are listening.
So it started with my first DMT trip, and I had a breakthrough the first time, and I was in a dream state for about 10 minutes. When I woke up from the dream state, I repeated, and I was crying, bawling, crying, and I kept repeating 3 phrases. It was, I remember. How could we forget? How could we forget? I remember, and oh my fucking God, like, oh my fucking God. And I remembered where we came from, and I forget now. Like, I forgot what I remembered, because we're not meant to remember. We have amnesia as humans, but it was, to me, it was the source. It was the ultimate, like, it was the most familiar thing that I could describe, like your dreams, like the opposite, like the dark side of your mind that you can't see, or like your mother's voice, like the most familiar things in life. That's how it was, more familiar than that. It was the most familiar thing I've ever experienced, and I don't know what it was. And it was, when I was there, it was timeless. It was an eternity. There was no sense of time for me. I felt like I'd been there forever. It was an eternity. I was not aware of my existence here on Earth. And it was a distinct female entity that I felt. And I remember being cradled, in a sense, and you can't think of it in a physical terms, because you're not physically seeing things, they're visions, right? You're not seeing it with our eyes. I'm having a vision. So I'm being held by her energy, and being shown secrets to the universe, like things, crazy stuff, like seeing stars in the cosmos, and seeing hieroglyphics on the walls everywhere, like, and things that have to do with the pyramids, and like access to energy, that so much information in such a short period of time. I don't know if you've heard of the Akashic Records. I feel like you tap into that also, like the Akashic Records, for a split second, and you're touched with every piece of information that has ever existed from the beginning of man until in the future, infinity, no time. And that was the source to me. And I realized that, like, we come from that and we go to that, and that's what I remembered, or what I think I remembered anyways. And ever since then, I've referred to it as a source, because it wasn't Jesus Christ, it wasn't a saint, it wasn't Buddha, it was an indescribable, memorable, because I've seen her several times,
and you keep referring to her as a woman.
Yeah, it's a female energy for me. It's a very female energy, like Mother Earth. And also it's interesting, because ayahuasca, they refer to
as a mother energy.
Yeah, the mother energy, and I feel it as a maternal, feminine energy, and we call her. We refer to her, my husband and I, as her. Like, she has a name. That's her. When we're talking about it, like, oh, so and so saw her, and we're like, oh, good for them. How was it? And it's not any particular God, it's like all of them. And I realize, like, every culture on earth we're all so different. Like, every culture needs to come together and use what they have to create their religion, so that they can have a way to get to that higher consciousness. So they use their God to get to the source. They don't, like, not everyone maybe looks at it and thinks it's the source. To them, it's God, and that's their world, right? It's still the end result. We're all gonna die. We all die and we're all born. Like, it's just the culture's way of getting to the destination, and each culture has a different map.
Yeah, no, each culture does, and each faith has a different path as well. And there's a lot of religions where the goal is not what's in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, for me, living in the moment and experiencing, life is important. Mm-hmm. To a lot of people of faith, this is just temporary, and you should not even care about the affairs of here, because eternity in the afterlife is what you should be living for, and you should crucify yourself here and not enjoy the things of the flesh or of the world, because they're not your things. Our reward is in heaven, and we live here to prepare for that paradise. And I
Abrahamic, like, it's
very
evangelical,
very religious. I mean, the Catholics too. I mean, San Martin, San Martin de Porres, the saint that I was named after. This dude wore the same outfit his whole life, just the same, chingadera, and, working with the sick, working with the poor, and just devoting his whole life to these, to the infirmed. And when he died, he had an outfit. He had a beautiful outfit. And he said, I want to be buried in this because that's how I want to go meet God, in my best outfit. Here on earth, I'm wearing this fucking potato sack and this shawl or whatever the hell it is.
Not to cut you off, but I think that way of organized religion, because that's very organized religion, right? And we're talking mostly about Catholic, Christian, right? Mostly Catholic.
Well, there's a lot of Buddhists. There's that monk who chopped off his dick because it got hard during meditation. Tanya, this isn't just Catholic and Christian.
Yeah, but I think that, okay, so let me take it in parts. I think the monk had he needed some kind of therapy, because this is like, there's a very thin line between religion and mental instability sometimes. So that,
I don't want these hard-ons to get in the way of me and my nirvana.
That sounds like something that maybe he needed a therapist, probably. But as far as like living like in poverty and, you know, the meek will inherit the earth and things, I think, this is my opinion, that all of that was because it's all a political move. So we're going to keep you down while you give us all your money to build bigger churches, because in Santeria, we don't think that you should live poor. We don't think, you know, if you come to our house, we're like, ask for abundance. Ask for, you want $100, ask for $1 million, because by the time it gets up there to whatever source is and it comes back down.
I mean, that's the prosperity gospel,
20,
right? It's the same thing as the evangelicals are saying. Give me $1,000. You're planting your seed for your bigger miracle. And God, listen, John 10:10 says, I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And there's a lot of preachers that preach the prosperity gospel. That means that God wants you rich, and the way that you're going to get rich is by sending me your goddamn money.
Yeah, it's different, because I think that if you get into like, I think people like that, they're charlatans, like they're straight out, and they have them in Santeria. Judgmental. They have them in Santeria too. They have them in everything. I'm very judgmental about things like that, because I don't think that you should take somebody's faith and use it against them.
Exploit them.
Like, you're such a piece of shit if you do that. Like, how can you take somebody who went to you with the last thing that they had was their faith, and now you're putting a price tag that is exorbitant, and you're gonna make them like suffer through it, and then you're going to give them a bullshit excuse about how their faith wasn't enough, so try again. So I think that, like, if you get into other, like, I don't think that whoever your God is wants you to be poor or be hungry or be whatever. I also don't think it's going to make you rich. Like, there's this very bad idea floating around that santeros can do whatever they want. They can sell drugs, they can do all these things, nobody's ever going to catch them. That's a fallacy. They're going to become rich. That's a fallacy. You may become rich, but it's not going to be because of Santeria. It's going to be because of something else. Maybe Santeria helped you open the doors to things, but this is not what's going to make you rich. You become a Santera or a Olorisha to help people. Your real karma, or if you believe in karma, is helping someone. That's the riches. Not you're going to come and I'm going to sell you this for $20. Like, that's not, you know.
And
but
what is weird? What is wealth and what is abundance? It's so relevant.
And then it's very relevant, right? Because now you're into, you want to, you know, like we talk about it, and you want to bring kind of ketamine to make it more mainstream, so more people know about it.
Yeah, like more not affordable, but
accessible. So had this been when I met you 5 years ago, I want you to know that Arthur used to like go to the office dressed in a suit, and, you know, fucking Louis Vuitton laptop bag. Like,
wow,
this is not.
Wasn't Louis.
You know, so it was very like, oh my God, Arthur dresses so good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was the whole.
You still dress
like,
good,
the whole.
But it was
image,
the whole
like,
image,
yeah, the bank thing,
the
like,
whole image, and now. I mean, I can say, because I know Arthur, like, you're a million times happier.
I know myself.
Right? In yourself, because you're comfortable in yourself. Yeah. And if ketamine did that for you, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I want to know, in the beginning, they give it to you, have to sit in their office, right?
Yeah.
Like and then, is it like more in the beginning? Like, am I going to go 4 times? What does it cost? And am I going 4 times a month?
So,
I need to know these things.
So the way it works is this: you go in, the recommended dosage per the FDA guidelines, which is what the doctors want to go by, is I think for 1 month it's twice a week treatments, twice a week.
Hold that thought. I think that's what I want to know along the same lines is the prerequisites. Like, you have to have tried psych drugs before that failed. and now you're a candidate
Or
for
can I
this.
go like
Can I
never having been on it?
correct?
great
Can I just show up and say, hey man, I think this will be beneficial for me? Well, have you tried psych meds? Have you blah blah? No, I haven't, but I think this will be beneficial for me. Nope, you got to go get those prerequisites done before you come in.
I can't answer that question. I don't know. I'm gonna say yes.
Possibly?
You need to have some sort of. I want to. I'm inclined to say yes, but I can't guarantee that. But I think there needs to be some documentation that you did make an attempt before at mental health,
alternative.
correcting it
Because
before
you called
that.
it something like it. You said it was something like people who have taken like different
non-treatment resistant
treatment.
depression.
Correct.
So I think
So
you
you
do
need all
have
that
to have
right.
something.
And this
right?
new clinic I went to, because they're doing infusion. So before it was intramuscular injections where there's no turning back. You're gone. You're committed. You know, this one is an IV. They hook you up. You lay in a chair. You could turn it off. You can take your finger out. They'll come in and disconnect you if you need to for any reason, which I liked it. And I liked the IV because I could move around. I had more time and space to think and move around versus the intramuscular was so fast. It was just I didn't have as much time to process while in the space.
So you started. It's 2 times a week,
Twice a week.
right? So you're doing it 8 times a month.
Yes, for the first month.
What is this costing me?
So without insurance, let's just say the first let's just call it $500 to $600 a treatment.
Okay.
Is what we're saying.
Okay.
Most insurance will not cover it.
So you're talking $1,000 a week.
Yeah, what the insurance will cover is the psychiatrist consultation and the visit with the psych, because
Okay.
technically you're meeting with the psych, right? And that's how some business models are set up that way, and which is why, she knows I'm planning on I'm looking to open one, and I want to help people, and that's my long-term goal, which we don't have to get into a lot now, but I want to. There's different business models, and I'm glad I got to experience both of them because I can see, as the consumer, what the benefits are from each one and what the pros and cons are. So the IV, you have more time to move around, but they asked me for documentation at the IV one. They said they needed some sort of documentation from the previous place showing what my dosage was, and because this new place offers take-home ketamine now, and that's why I found them, is because I didn't want to keep getting infusions. I can't afford to pay $500 every time I feel like I need an infusion, which I haven't been needing them in a while, thank God. But I went to them because they have sublingual tranches, they're called. So you put them under your tongue, and
They also have pills, right?
I don't think it's pills. So they have the nasal spray that was recently approved, and they have the sublingual
I had a
tablets that you let
ketamine. I
melt.
had a ketamine tablet at home.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, somebody gave me some ketamine.
Of course they did.
I wasn't.
Of course they did.
I had ketamine and what's that other one? The focus one,
Adderall.
ADHD.
Adderall.
Yeah,
Adderall.
which is really good with weed, by the way.
Yeah, I was thinking. I
We're
was
not
like, maybe I need
recommending
an
you
Adderall
do
to come
it,
and
though,
talk
so
on
if
this
you
show.
get sick, we totally didn't say that. We're kidding. So you went like 8 times a month. I'm like, no, you went 8 times a month.
And then I started going as needed. It was once a month I was having a crisis, what they were calling it. And I was, looking back, I was having a crisis, calling the doctor, crying, like freaking out. I was going twice a month sometimes. And I slowly tapered down. And then the end of the holidays hit, end of 2020. They went on vacation. I stopped for a while. Found a new one, new doctor, because they offer the take home. It's more economical for me. So the other day I had a really bad day and I haven't used them because I don't take it recreationally. I took some in the bath and it was amazing. It was not as effective as getting a treatment in the center, but it
It
really
has to be a different dose, right? They have to be giving you
and
a
your body
smaller
only
dose.
metabolizes half of it anyways, because it's so it's not as intense as getting injected with it, but it was enough to reset me, and it reset my whole psyche, my whole mental completely reset like a new person. And it reminded me of my dreams and my goals. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I thinking? Why am I in this place right now? Why? And it helped me refocus and move forward in the way I needed to.
Do you feel that since you started the therapy, everything is more purpose driven?
Everything in life?
Mm-hmm. Because like right now when you said it got your goals and your focus redone, like does that mean then the more of this that you do, the more that you live a purpose-driven life?
Yes.
Because there's people that wake up and it's random. They're just like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
Well, I'm kind of right there
know?
too. Also, so it's kind of a double-ended question because in life, right where I'm at in life right now is I don't even know if I want to work going forward. Like I spent so much time in the corporate
setting
and giving so much of myself and my life to them that and I helped my husband go through school so that he can afford to take care of us, and now he is. The tables have turned. He's doing well in his career, and now I have an opportunity to maybe not go back, and that's why I'm exploring finding a group of people that have the same vision as I do to open up something like this where we can make it accessible to people and maybe not work. Like right now I'm being a housewife. I read all day.
I was just about to say that, but I wasn't going to say housewife. I was going to say,
Yeah.
so you're literally
So
a
toxic.
I am.
No, I was going to say stay-at-home husband.
Stay-at-home husband. I'm learning how to be a good one and feed him and like do like
Order a lot of plants. When I
can't-
went, there was
yeah,
like 12 fucking
It's a
shrubbery
hard-
being delivered.
It's a big job taking like I feel like I'm more busy now than I was when I worked at the bank. Like I can't, it's so true. I don't know how people did it before, but give a busy man something if you want it to get done. Is what they say. Give it to the busiest man.
That's funny.
I wanted to, I know we're here to talk about ketamine, but what you were talking about
You
earlier.
talk about whatever the hell you
Okay,
want.
so you got me thinking. This concept was just presented to me, and it really bothered. It's been like getting into my mind, and I can't get it out of my mind. I've been reading about it, but we were talking about religions, and I saw something someone sent to me about a demiurge. And I had to look it up. I didn't know what a demiurge was. It's kind of like a demigod.
Okay.
So they're talking. The theory was there's the source, which is the oneness, the dual. There is no duality. That's the theory. There's all oneness. Everything is just oneness. We think there's dualities, but there's not. And their theory was that the what is it? Demiurges came up with the religion since the beginning of time to create polarities in people, so that people there's good and there's bad, so that they can drive people one way or the other, and use that energy, collect that worship and that prayer and that intent to make them more powerful in their dimension or wherever they're in. And they're not really the source. There are other beings out there in different dimensions, and if you believe in that, I do.
I believe in all of that.
They're different beings. So it got me thinking. I'm like,
like the jinns.
Yeah, like a jinn. Like maybe they like someone has tricked humanity from the beginning of time into thinking that there are these religions so that they can create groups of people to gather their prayers and their focus and
their energy
and their consciousness, and thrive on it. And it got me to thinking, like, what does that mean for all the sacred texts that are written, and why would we do that? Why would we trick ourselves? And like, why? Like, what's the
what's
why
the
would
end
we
goal
do this?
here?
And it just got me thinking about religion, because we were talking about good and bad, and you're this or you're that, and that was the whole purpose of the demiurge, was to get people to choose like being on one side or the other.
So a demiurge, when I think of a demigod, it's somebody who was born to a god and a human, and then the offspring becomes the demigod, correct?
It's like when the Greek gods used to have children with
humans.
mortals.
Yes,
Like not a full god, but
which the fallen angels did that as well, and that's why the flood came in Christianity. Yeah. So you've got it in every different
culture.
Yeah.
Culture.
We'll call it culture, I guess.
There you go. That's good. But yeah, it was the offspring of these relationships that created these demigods.
Yes.
The Nephilim, that's who it was.
Yeah.
The giants that were fucking the humans, and then God got mad.
Although the
and sent
people who
flood.
made the thing with the stones that nobody knows how it got there.
Like
Stonehenge.
Petra and like or the Easter Island. And
Yeah,
like
and
what-
Easter
Petra,
Island.
Petra.
You know,
Petra.
I mean-
Have you been to Petra?
No.
Oh, it's fascinating.
And you look so sad about it. You're like, it's on my list.
Yeah,
Get
no,
that-
it's
yeah, it will
fucking
happen.
phenomenal. Yeah.
But like that, I mean, there's like there and the buried Easter Island heads. I mean, the giants. There's so much that we don't know.
The pyramids, how'd they do them?
And then, and that goes back to the first. I remember. How could we forget? Like, what the hell did I remember? And like, I've been trying to remember ever since, and I can't. Have been given that knowledge again, and I admit that I seek it when I'm going there. But that concept is just so bothersome, and it really got me thinking. And I can't. I'm dwelling on it, and I opened up like theosophy books, and I'm like trying to research and find go as far back as I can go. Since I found this, and it's so interesting, because they were saying that every saint, every Satan, every saint, every representation on both sides are all working for the same entity. It's just we think that they're either this or that. Really, it's all for the demigod or the demiurge
To collect energy.
to collect their energy, right? And it's not, and it's the opposite of the oneness. It's not the oneness, which is the source.
When you've got every Sunday, you've got a service where the Catholic Church is getting their message from the Vatican, and they're saying this is what, because it's not like random. It's like not the priest just wakes up and says, this is what I'm going to teach on today. No, it's a global message that Rome, the Vatican, is saying, hey man, this is this week's message. You deliver it, but it's pretty much in the same lines. In Christianity, it's the Assemblies of God. Every week they preach on something. So that energy that's coming forth on that collective Sunday from these places is all over the world.
Immense.
And it's like, look, just like when Muslims pray and they faced Mecca, whether that holy city is powerful or not, that energy that's being transmitted by the global, collective of the people that have this faith, it's creating an energy source.
Yeah, you can see
for
it
sure.
in science.
For sure.
Like you can see pictures of it in certain cameras, like the magnetic fields coming out of people.
Well, it's a total circumstance is what they call it, right? It's like when people, when Jonestown, people were like, how could they drink that Kool-Aid? Like, there's no way I would have done it.
The ether starts going.
There's no way that I would do that. And it's like, wait, it's not you. You're literally involved in a total circumstance. There's so many things going on here that you're almost powerless to fight it. And you get caught up in that moment with everybody that you're with.
I think that, like, this is going to sound bad. I've seen myself caught up in things like that with Santeria, right? Things that I say, I'll never do that. And there I am in Cuba. And I'm like, oh, we're really doing this, huh? Okay. But your faith drives you to, like, I'll be okay, and I have been okay, right? Nothing's happened, but I could totally see that because there's things that I do now. Somebody just reminded me on Saturday. They're like, remember when you were like, I'm not gonna do that, I'm always gonna work at the bank, I don't want to do this, and now I'm like, hand me your chicken, give it, so I think you do get caught up in that because then it becomes very normalized, right? Like, it's normal that you go to my house and we're calling the dead people every morning to get their blessing and alofi and doing all these things, right? And I also feel like one person's really good intentions for you can do so much for you. Like, there's very few people who will send me, I'm going to dedicate 5 minutes of my day just to give you a good intention. And when they send me that, I'm like, oh, I like that. Because I've done that, right? I have a group of people who are in my religious house who will all focus on things like somebody had cancer, so I was like, okay, every day at 12 o'clock we're gonna focus. She's fine now, but I definitely think that power of intention helped her. She went to the doctor because I'm not a doctor, and she did what she had to do with Western medicine, but I also think the power of intention is there.
Our minds create our world, and like if we're willing good to somebody, like and it's collective too, like we create everything, our whole world. I always say everything I ever wanted to do I've done. Like I told my husband the other day, if I died, I was traveling again, I'm like, if I die, like just know that there's nothing, I have no regrets. Like there's everything that I wanted to do I've done. I have my family I've loved, I've had good friends, and
I would hate to be him every time you get on a plane, because you go on a
plane
a lot. And he's like, if I die, like
it's like my grandma.
He's totally your grandma now. I'm like, what?
But what's interesting and what's beautiful is that, and I had this. I told my friend this yesterday. We were talking about this yesterday, and I keep getting caught up in these conversations with people, and I'm realizing now that I only want to have these kind of conversations with people, and I'm trying to weed out people that are on a superficial level where I can't engage like this, because it's not worth it anymore for me. And we were I was with a friend who was aspiring. She wants to try DMT. She's got a lot of questions. She really wants to expand her mind. And we were in a crowd, not a crowded restaurant, but there was a lot of people there, and we were having such deep philosophical questions about everything that we're talking about. And at the end of it, I was telling her how rare it is to find people these days that have these conversations and that we can sit and talk for an hour or 2 hours about it and not run out of things to talk about. And at the end of it, I told her, like, now think about it. Look around us. What percentage do you think in this room, this restaurant, of people like have these conversations like once a week? Like what percentage, And it was so, like, the answer was not a lot. And the point is that I feel like now that the world is awakening to these things and they're becoming more mainstream, like it's almost a moral duty to mankind to share the knowledge and to people who are ready for it. Not everyone. People who are ready for it.
Or want it, right?
Or want it, or seek the knowledge. You can't push it on people.
You don't want to...
You'll crush their world if they're not ready for it.
Yeah, and I always tell people, like we've talked about it, I'm like, I'm not looking for comforts. Like, whatever works for you, you should do. If it was really working for you, you wouldn't be looking for me. But whatever. Like, do what you do. Because I think that if you have to, there's a saying in Spanish, lo que no nace no crece. If it doesn't grow from within you, it's not going to grow at all. Like, if the seed isn't planted already within you, so you can't, we could have these conversations, right? But because you're open to things like that, Martin's open. But I think that if you try to tell somebody who's not open, they're like, one, you're fucking crazy. Yeah. Two, you just like to do drugs.
Yeah, to be very careful. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing that people are having these conversations, because I never did 10 years ago, and now I am. And now they're consuming my life. And now the people are coming into, like, being here and this. Like, I have been dwelling on this ideas, like, for weeks and waiting for opportunities and people to come into my life that I can even just talk about these things, because there's so few of them. And then look at us, we're talking about it now, and it's a beautiful thing, because it's happening more and more, I see. And the people who are ready for the knowledge, I think, should receive it. And we're, like, we moved into the age of Aquarius now. It's like the communication age of sharing ideas and stuff, and not being so self-centered and focused on the earth. It's the air ideas, right? So we're helping mankind, which is why I want to open the ketamine clinic. Like, I've been like, what am I going to do with my life now? And I figured it out, like, help people.
Yeah,
like,
we're in the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, look, that's why when they were worshiping the golden calf, you hear about that in the Old Testament, right? And that was that was Taurus, right? That we're in the age of Taurus, and from Taurus we went into Pisces, which why there were so many fish symbolism in the times of Christ. Christ was here to usher in the age of Pisces, right? I mean, if you really want to, and now we're ushering in the age of Aquarius. And now that's just, and look, even our everything is related to the cosmos, whether we want to believe it or not. Absolutely. Everything is fucking related to the cosmos. We are the cosmos. We are the cosmos. We are stardust, right? And so now when you start thinking about that, and you even realize the 7-day week, the 7-day week is based on the cycles of the moon. And that's because that's what they could, that's the only way that they could measure time, And so that is why we have this measurement of time, because of the cosmos. Every day is named after a fucking planet.
So if we're all caught, right? It's all. I believe that too. The moon dictates the ocean, dictates the.
You know why Monday's called Monday, right?
No.
The moon. It's named after the moon.
Oh, really?
in
Spanish. No.
Lunes.
Okay.
Martes.
I thought of it in English.
What is Tuesday?
Martes. Mars.
Mars.
Oh, I learned something today.
Wednesday.
Miércoles.
Which is?
Mercury.
Correct.
I feel like I'm being quizzed.
No.
That's great. Though.
Jupiter.
Thank you.
Connecting the dots.
Friday.
Viernes is Venus.
Correct.
Oh,
4 times 7 is 28. You know what I mean?
So every and Sunday.
Good for this. Oh, Domingo.
The sun. Sunday, literally Sunday. Well, Domingo también, because Domingo is I think Domingo translates it to something sunshine or brightness.
So if it's all cosmic, right?
Everything is, every single thing.
I'm going to ask you: do you believe in heaven and do you believe in hell? If we're all cosmic and it's all energy, do you believe in heaven and hell?
I don't think the answer is like a yes or no answer. Okay. I think it just, I don't know. I think that we're reincarnated into Earth many times back into, and we, depending on our karmic ties and how we live our life, I think we come back at a higher consciousness each time, or a lower one, until we get to a point where we have the option to not have to return and to stay at the source if we want. And that, I think it's a Tibetan belief is where I may have read that, but that resonates with me the most. That makes the most sense. And what's interesting, why this is really cool, and I don't know if this is true, but I read this somewhere. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I think it's on the 27th day. Let's say it's the 27th day. That's how long it takes for the soul to reincarnate. On the 27th day, I think, is when the third eye, the pineal gland, is formed in the uterus. Like, how interesting is that? Like,
well, it's definitely all connected. I mean, you can even go to Ifa. Ifa, what we divine with, it's all parts of your body.
It goes into the baby's pineal gland, which is known to be the entrance to the soul. Like how I mean, ancient texts matching like modern science to the date of like something so like significant. That is really significant. That's not something we can just sweep under the rug and forget. I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I got to verify and make sure that's a fact, though.
Do you believe in heaven and hell?
I don't believe in hell at all. I don't believe in heaven. This is going to be bad. I don't believe in heaven either, really, to be honest with you. I think that there is no hell, because I think that what you're living is hell. If this wasn't hell, you wouldn't see your people you love die, suffer. You wouldn't go through all those things. You're put here to live out a very human experience that has a lot of loss in it. And I think that that's really what hell would feel like for me. Like having to see my grandmother passed away, my best friend died. Like those were things that were hell, right? Having to see people who I love not being able to help themselves, things like that. So I think this experience you're having is the closest to hell, I guess, that I would figure, because of the loss. The loss is what gets me. Kids, things like that. There's no way that a God, I don't believe in that God that's very like wrathful and like, you did this, now everybody's fucked. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in heaven where we're going to ascend, there's going to be gates, and then we're all going to hang out with the virgin.
And your kind will not be allowed.
You won't be there. And then we're going to be there with all the virgins from the Muslims that God promised.
Yes.
I don't believe that. I believe that I have ceremonies done to avoid reincarnation. Because I don't want to come back. This is enough. And we do ceremonies in Santeria so that you can elevate your subconscious. And you're supposed to think of things differently and act as such.
And look where you are now. Like you already are, in my opinion, someone relative to everyone I meet, you are someone who has a higher consciousness than the average person.
Thank you. So, I don't want to come back. Thank you, Blue.
So there are, you said earlier that when you connected to source, you realized where it all started, right? And there is a philosophy in these Abrahamic, not in the religious context, but in the Abrahamic faith, that we all come from source. Source is some people call it God, some people call it the universe, whatever the hell you want to call it. But that when we originated there, we had our consciousness already there, and we chose to come here. And we chose to come here, and we took on a mission when we came here. Okay. And we knew that purpose when we got here. But we made a conscious decision to come here, which goes against everything that every kid says when they get pissed at their parents. I didn't ask to be fucking born. You fucking made me. Like, that whole angry motherfucking monster teenage years, right? That we all went through, right? I mean, I know I did. And so, but the reality is that you did. You made a conscious decision to come here. And when you came here, that mission became lost with all the programming that went into your head. With life gets in the way of your mission, and then instead of following your mission, there's very few people that ascend to that place in life where they're like seeking a higher consciousness, an evolution of their spiritual growth. Most of them get caught up chasing food and shelter. Very few can ascend higher than that. There's very few people that can sit there and say, well, I'm going to meditate and take ketamine. And let's face it, not everybody can afford that journey. Yeah. A lot of people, like I said, are fucking looking for fresh water, and they spend hours of their day hiking to get it. When you're in that vicious cycle, it's hard to think of anything that is like, well, let me just fucking get into the cosmos and meditate and blah, blah, blah. It's almost damn near impossible. And when all that shit gets in the way, you become lost, and you become lost in the noise. And not only when you're struggling, but there are people who get lost in the noise that are, like you've got social media influencers, for instance, that are constantly posting pictures on yachts with all the designer clothing, with the this, with the that. And people think that that's life and that that's success and that's, wealth. But it literally is trying to fill a void. And that void could never, I don't know if you remember the show Three's Company.
Yeah.
So Three's Company, John Ritter played Jack Tripper. I don't know if you ever saw the show, but anyway, John Ritter was like just at the end of his rope, right? The guy was like, I'm broke. I have to sell all my shit just to keep staying in LA. And then he got his big break with Three's Company. And he was like, fuck yeah, I made it. When he got to the studio, he passed by one of the dressing rooms. The dressing room belonged to Freddie Prinze Sr. he had just killed himself. Freddie Prinze Sr. had just committed suicide. And when he stopped by, he saw that dressing room as he was walking to his dressing room. And he said, at that moment, everything that I thought I knew was completely shattered, because I thought, I'm here, I fucking made it.
I'm gonna be great now.
This is all I need. And then when he saw that dressing room where that man who had, one of the biggest shows at the time, Chico and the Man, Freddie Prinze was on a trajectory for stardom, and he said, oh shit, this isn't the answer. This isn't it. There's more. And which was probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in his life at that time. And I remember reading this in an interview somewhere. But that's, it's so fortunate for him that he realized that, that he realized, because there's people that really think, once I graduate, then I'll be there. Once I have kids, once I buy a house. There's people that are, once I get this, I'll have it, and I can live, and I can be happy. None of that shit matters. And I think that's what you start finding out later on.
Exactly. And then also, like, you made me think of, like, calling, like, good and bad. Like we have a habit as humans. Sorry, I'm talking this. We have a habit as humans of classifying everything, and that's our worst enemy. Like, is calling things good, bad, night, day, boy, girl, gay, straight, whatever. Like, it compartmentalizes us. And, like, my grandma always says, we talk about, when she was little, she used to always say, driving through Tijuana, like, God, these poor kids, like, look at them. I feel so bad for them, like, living in the streets, begging, whatever. And my great grandmother used to say, why? Don't feel bad for them. These are some of the happiest children in the world. Like, they don't know what they never had. Like, and it's all relative. And just because you think it's good doesn't mean it's really good. And that's like, and then that goes to the whole trying not to classify, which is the unity theme, right? That we were talking about earlier. It's the classification that, like, gets us in trouble and puts us into, like, boxes or corners. Like, this is good and that's bad. Like, just because you have this, that makes it good. Like, well, what if the person who's living in the tent on the street, what if that's really what's good? You know what I mean? And, like, the mansion and all the bills and all that, like, and the hot cars, and that's the bad side. We have it completely wrong. Like, or what if there is no good or bad? It's all the same. It just is.
I definitely think that, like, the point of spirituality is to have you find a peace within yourself, because I think that a lot of things, we make a lot of decisions based on fear. We vibrate on fear. I'm scared. I don't want to leave my job. I'm scared. Yeah. I don't want to do this. I'm scared. What's going to happen? I'm scared. So I think that, like,
if I don't use a condom, I'm scared.
I mean, be scared of that one. But I mean, there's like, I get a lot of people who, like, message me because I'll
got a raw dog life, Thanya.
No, you don't. So then I'll put stuff on a chair, and people will be like, oh, you're always so positive in the morning, right? I mean, things happen to me every day. Every day something happens, right? But every day that something happens, I attempt to be like, oh, this is a lesson. Yeah. Maybe somebody hurt me. Maybe I helped you and you hurt me, but this is a lesson. The lesson isn't, that you're shitty. I already got that. The lesson is I need to change. Yeah. What am I doing? Right? Like, so that I can change. So, you're going to find adversity, but I think spirituality gives you a sense of, like, happiness at a different level. I used to make fun of my mom, right? Because she would be like, I'd be like, Mom, this is happening. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, what do you mean, okay? The kitchen isn't done. We're on month 2. What's going on with the remodel? And she's like, let's go to Costa Rica. And I'm like, okay. Because I've learned that she's very wise. And I've learned now where she's like, it's going to happen. It's good. You cannot push it to it's going to happen. Like, everything that is meant for you, if you do the work, you also cannot sit there. You want to open a clinic, you're going to look into it, you're going to meet people, you're going to do things. You're going on tour. Like, it's going to happen. I'm doing the most that I can do, and my spirituality is telling me that I'm going to vibrate on just love and open myself up, as opposed to just being scared all the time. Like, I'm not going to tell people I take ketamine because what are they going to say about me? I'm not, right? Because there's a lot of that, right?
You got to get to the point where you don't give a fuck. You really do.
The fuck it attitude?
You have to.
Yeah.
You really have to.
There's a lot of truth in that too, and I'm right there. Like, lately, like, I don't give a fuck about anything anymore.
I'm
like,
wearing Crocs, bro. You think I give a fuck?
So
I don't give a
liberating.
fuck. It's so liberating. I cannot stand shoes. I cannot stand shoes. If I can go the rest of my life without fucking dress shoes, I will not wear dress shoes again. I like Birkenstocks, and I don't give a shit if you call me a lesbian. I like Crocs. I don't give a shit if you call me a crazy person. I like flip flops. I don't like socks.
You have an aversion to socks.
It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
And I don't.
Like,
And dude, I am half. I'm so. If I just bought jeans about a year ago, I wish I fuck jeans. I don't even want jeans anymore. I like freaking my hemp pants that I could come up and they have a drawstring. I don't want to fuck with the belt anymore.
Oh, if Hooter was here, he would
don't want a tie.
and it's a new world. You can do. You make the rules up now.
Dude,
It's a new society.
It's like I am too old to give a fuck. And if you don't let me into your establishment because I'm not wearing a suit, then fuck you and your establishment.
Exactly.
Thank you for that PSA. Amen. Thank you for that. Well, I think you should do what makes you happy. You could stay in Crocs. You be happy, Martin. Because
and people are like, "Oh my god, you ain't." Shut the fuck up. If you give a shit about my shoes, then go fuck yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Do my shoes worry you? Really? I don't have the right shoes to hang out with you. You goddamn.
when I renew my vows, if you're not wearing Crocs, I'm going to be disappointed. I'll be like, where are the Crocs? Right, you and my mom. She'll be in Birkenstocks. Be like, where are the Crocs?
I wear Birkenstocks.
I want to tell you that's funny because I'm going to a wedding for one of my godkids next week, and my mom was like, I'm not buying anything to wear to this wedding. And I'm
Good
like,
for
what do
her.
you mean?
Good.
Like, it's a wedding. And she's like, okay. And I'm very happy for them. And I'm going to go give them all my love. But why do I have to go be uncomfortable
Yes.
for 7 hours
Oh
in
my
something I don't want to
God.
wear?
And go consume more things.
Yeah,
like,
and she was like, I'm not gonna.
Consume.
I need an outfit, and I need
She's like, I'm not
shoes
gonna
for
do
this
it.
outfit.
She totally was like, I'm not gonna. And I was like, are you sure? And she's like, I'm not gonna. It's hot. I'm gonna be comfortable, and that's it. I was like, oh.
I'm wearing my own clothes from now on. I decided not to buy things anymore. If I am, it's secondhand. I'm gonna make it I've been screen printing. I'm wearing my own stuff. Like, I'm not buying new stuff.
What does that
like,
say there?
It says
Retro
Ghetto House.
Retro Ghetto House. Is that a music thing?
Well, I'm like really into house music.
You're
He's
into house
really
music.
into house
Like,
music.
really
Okay.
into house music.
No, that's fine.
But like, yeah, and like no more
And
buying.
your hat says
consuming.
"Grr."
Yeah, this was a warning for today. It was like grr. This morning.
Grr.
Yeah. I should say that. Yeah, now it's not so much grr. Like,
Oh, it's pretty good.
yeah.
It's
Yeah?
pretty grr.
I'm gonna change it to woof. Actually, I was like, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
The drive home.
But there's no.
And your beard is on point.
Thank you.
Mine's all over the place.
No,
and
I
yours
like
is
it
just-
though. This is I like the whole like the shoes, the hippie look. Like I'm
The
digging
hippie
it.
look.
I'm
Ah,
digging
you know,
it.
fuck
Let
it.
it go.
Yeah.
There's no rules.
But yours is so well groomed. My eyebrows look like it's just fucking a war going on.
I
up
told
there.
okay when I said a comment about how well groomed
Well, you
you
know
were,
where I came-
got
where I came
back
from here.
like, oh no, okay.
Well, I just came from.
Yeah, but
You're
you were
straight.
toxic,
You're
though.
straight.
Yeah.
I'm going on vacation in 2
Let's
days.
just do a side by side, guys.
This
I'm
isn't
just
the
saying.
usual.
Somebody is really into lining it up,
And somebody's into like
just letting it go.
let it go. Let
I'm
it
just saying.
go.
But I
Look
consult if you guys, if you ever need gay consulting, like I do, I consult people on
We're gonna have you-
decorating
Fashion.
clothes.
We're
Like
gonna
I will
have
like go shopping
Chiki's
with people.
Make an
and
appointment. Arthur's gonna consult.
swear.
So
I
what could you
will.
do with this?
I just have to clean it up, put a man bun, put a man bun up there.
Oh,
like,
sometimes I'll fucking man
Yeah.
bun it up, dude. Like
clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
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 Chiki
no.
says
Get a
she's trying.
V-neck on you.
A V-neck.
Yeah, show a
I
little
don't think I've
skin,
ever
you
seen
know?
him in a V-neck.
Yeah, show a little skin.
I have V-necks. I own a
Show
V-neck.
some cleavage. A little bit,
Oh, dude,
you know?
when I used to
I'm
lift,
all about the
I used to
cleavage.
lift a lot.
Yeah.
I used to, and then I hurt my shoulder. But when I lifted a lot, my
So
shirts
you're all
were
about
tight and
cleavage,
beat up.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, dude. I was.
He was
all-
like a girl. Everything
was
had to
all-
be
oh.
showing his
Low as you
booty.
can,
dude.
the lower the better.
Oh,
There
dude,
you
I was
go.
freaking doing inclines so I could have the little bumps up here. You know,
It's
it
very
was
Latino. You can get away with it because you're Latino.
the Latino,
You
the.
guys are dorks.
Romantica, like, you know, suavecito.
I need the grr
Off
hat.
topic.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna make you one. I made this. I'll make you one.
Make me
That's
a grr. Fuck
funny.
it. I'll rock a grr.
I have a new subject. Anyways, I want to tell you guys that we should do a show on another subject.
Another subject,
You
which
guys,
is
which is talking about all this got me thinking about technology, and this is an idea that somebody else put into my head, a good former friend of mine. But it was about how technology has ruined the world. How technology has ruined the world.
Oh well, yeah, for sure. Nobody reads. Like you're talking about books.
No,
he
no,
talks
but
about
like-
the Bible. Or
But
nobody
like no,
reads.
no, in a different context, like in
How?
different.
Oh,
it's
tell
a
me
whole
later.
nother.
Tell me at
like-
lunch. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you at lunch. I'll let you know.
also earlier you said something about the veil.
Yeah.
You know that there's a veil between us and the spirit realm.
Yeah.
Correct. And I don't know. I think we changed topics, but tell me more about this veil. I'm really curious.
So when I'm in that place, I just sense that I'm in between this material world and the spiritual world, and I'm in the space in between, which is what I call the veil, because I'm very keenly aware of both sides. Like I still know that somewhere far away I have my existence here, and I'm laying on that psych's couch, and then I also know that like there's a different spiritual side, and there's messages, and there's entities, and there's the sublime, the nirvana that I'm seeking. And so that's why I say you're able to go in between the veil, because that's where the thoughts are. That's where all the what ifs are of the world. Like it is and it isn't. It's it can and it can't be. It's a boy, it's a girl. It's up, it's down. It's everything. It's just what's coming out into the universe.
But
so
do you see like
that's what the veil is
spirits
for
in
me.
this veil?
No,
or
I
ever
don't
see like people?
My mom has. When she goes in, she's seen her brother who passed away, other cousins. I have never, knock on wood, I've never experienced loss yet. And I'm 38, so I know it's coming, but I've never experienced profound loss, so I don't know what it's like.
So that's not something
so
you
I don't
see
know.
when
I don't
you're
know.
in
Yeah,
that.
I just see life as a bunch of ideas, little dreams that have happened, can happen, may happen, will never happen, all in the same realm of possibilities.
When you went into the temple back in the day, into the tabernacle, right? During the Old Testament days. To get into, they called it the Holy of Holies, was you had to do these blood sacrifices and all this stuff to get in there, and there was a veil that separated the whole thing, and there was a separation from God and from man. And according to the Bible, when Jesus was crucified, that veil was broken and that union with God was complete. And that's when he said, "It is finished." And at that time, everything shook, and then the veil was broken, and it made it accessible for everybody. Whether you had you didn't need the animal sacrifices, you didn't need the financial tithing. All you needed was the blood of Christ now to get into the Holy of Holies, which is why I thought it was interesting that you used the word veil.
That's funny too, because there's a lot of secrets in Santeria where they actually put a veil of sorts for you to get into something. And it's used in every large ceremony, Ifa, Santo, and it represents a veil.
And it's so crazy because, not crazy, but there's so many running themes with all the different religions. There's so many running themes that you start realizing when you start piecing them together that there are more similarities than there are differences.
Sure.
But I think that they've exploited the differences in order to cause division, and who's they?
Polarities. It's all like more division and polarities, right? But at the end of the day, like it's still a map to like whatever their final destination is post-death or post-life, right? Every religion's just a roadmap on how to live your life and how to
live your afterlife.
Yeah, whatever that maybe is.
Yeah,
whatever that may be.
Interesting.
I mean, listen, that's why I'm a big fan of Dionysus. God of wine.
I know.
And he was out there.
The god of
fucking
excess.
Bacchanalian.
Basically excess.
Yeah. Excess.
I couldn't say it right now for some reason.
Excess.
Excess. Thank you. Basically drinking, fucking anything that had to do with.
With
live it up.
hedonism.
Yes, I'm a firm believer
with
in
being
hedonism.
human.
Like, we're here to like experience sensual pleasures, all of our senses. Like we're not here to like deny ourselves.
I think priests should have sex. We would be so much better off.
I think so too, because they're gonna give you advice on marriage and fucking, but they get in trouble for fucking.
Yeah.
Well, this is like what I told you. Remember one time we were talking about if you go to somebody to get like you find a spiritual leader, like like a guide. My mom's your spiritual guide. If you went to my house and my house is falling apart and I have nothing to eat and I'm living in squalor and things are really fucked up for me, and you see that I can't get myself out of a box of Cheerios, how am I going to get you out?
Right.
Like,
do as I say, not as I do.
You have to be very careful. You cannot go to see somebody who has not studied, because this is a lot of, these things because you studied different religions. You know these things because you read. But if you're looking for guidance into spirituality, it's a very personal journey. But if you don't have a guide, you're really going to fuck yourself too, because you're going to end up in situations that you cannot handle. You had already done DMT, you had already done things. So then when you did ketamine, it was kind of like a transference of energy into this new thing. But it's not like I'm going to go sit with you and, you know, you're going to, I don't know, you're going to be my Reiki master, but you can't fucking work it out for yourself. Like, no, you know, I'm not going to go with a santera who's been a santera 2 years and is going to tell me that she's going to help me when she can't, she doesn't know anything, because any religion that is oral, that is more like a cult, a secret, you have to learn. It's on the job learning, right? Like, you're there's things that don't transfer, and there's things that don't transfer. I could explain to you, like you're trying to explain to me your experience with ketamine, but it doesn't transfer until I'm sitting there and I'm on ketamine, and then I see what source is to me, and you know. But you need that guide. You sat with somebody. It's not recreational. Like, there's a purpose.
And that's what we want to do now, is like be my friend and I who have this vision, is like be the guides or the shaman, if you will, to create a space, a really special place for people to come and heal through psychedelics and therapy.
Now, what kind of license do you need for that, or do you need a license? And because you did mention that that's what your vision is, what do you have to do in order to get? I mean, I can't imagine that you can just set up a fucking brick and mortar and say, hey, everybody come get some ketamine.
I mean, yeah, it is, and it isn't that easy. So you need a doctor who has to legally own the company in California, and no non-physician can have ownership in the company. So that's an obstacle, but it's, you know, work around. So we need someone that shares the vision, but really it's a medication they're prescribing. So it's a psychiatrist's office you're opening that just happens to provide a certain type of medication treatment that's done on site. That's it.
Before I forget, how much cheaper is it to do that at home ketamine?
Oh, I'm like, wait, the street black market? Or
no. Oh, is there black market ketamine?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Always, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm
like, oh, is there?
It's 100. I pay like 125 for 30 tranches. I have 2 refills I can go get, and I've used it once since I've had it.
But that's so much more reasonable than
$500.
$500.
How do you administer that?
Under your tongue. You just hold it under your tongue.
So it's subliminal.
And you
I
lay
mean,
down.
subliminal.
Yeah.
Sublingual.
Yes. And that's why I went there and found them, is because it wasn't economical to keep paying $500. Like it's
Martin and I are going to go to your house with Chikis and ask for our.
But that's why I wanted it accessible. Like, it's not fair that only the wealthy people or people who have great insurance can experience this.
So
it's
you need.
Right.
So basically, what you need right now is a doctor.
We need a doctor
to sign off
and
on
we're
Who's
looking
open
at
to
who shares the
ketamine.
vision
And
with
have you found
us.
a doctor yet?
No, we're actively searching, and we're looking for referrals, introductions for people. But it's all about the energy and the vision sharing. Because we don't want someone who just wants to go make money off of it. We want someone who really wants to heal the people, track it, monitor it, analyze it, give feedback, and graduate the clients out. Like, I was graduated pretty much out of the psychedelic center. Like, I would love to do that, and also with MDMA and with psilocybin, right? Because those are also coming down the line for approval.
For sure, psilocybin for sure. Mm-hmm. I met a guy on the beach recently who
Of course you did.
I like this story.
I just want to say, of course you did.
And he is a Frisbee guy.
Yeah.
And he goes to the border with all these kids that are in these encampments. Mm-hmm. So he goes to the border, and he'll spend hours playing Frisbee with these kids. And people that he's just, you know, goes to these places, and they'll go to the beach right there in Tijuana, and they'll play Frisbee and get their head out of, you know, wherever the situation, right? And that's what his nonprofit is. I have one of his Frisbees in the trunk of the car. And so every time I see him, I'm fucking and then all of a sudden here comes a Frisbee flying at me, and I'm throwing the disc with him and whoever he's with. Now, the reason I bring him up is because he has a friend who is a psychologist. He's a doctor, and he goes out there to volunteer as well. And they put these kids on these heart monitors, where, you know, they'll put a probe on their finger or whatever, and they'll start talking to them. You know, it's like a little outlet for these kids, and they'll start talking to these kids about their experiences. And these experiences have been extremely traumatic. Sure. And when they start talking about these experiences, and they're logging all this information, it's almost like a like a medical study that they're doing, and so they use the frisbees to help
Kinda loosen them up.
and to pretty much be there to get their head out of where they're at again, like I said. But then they start the psychologist starts interviewing these kids and grown-ups as well, not just the kids. And when they start talking about the traumas, their heart rates just go through the roof and elevate. And what their goal is to get case studies, follow these people through their journey, wherever it is that it takes them, and then provide or be able to have the resources to provide therapy for these people, which is pretty fucking awesome, because it's like it's a not neglected, but it's a population that people like, almost like the homeless. It's like
I think totally neglected.
Yeah. And so but it makes me think of, these are the type of people that are
would share the
vision type of a thing.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. Someone
I mean, I don't know who his psychologist friend is, but I should hit him up and maybe we interview him and then we talk to him and figure out what it is that they're doing, because he'd be a fucking phenomenal person to talk to for this.
And what they're trying to do, like, and why can't there be, like, we're in LA, there's so much money, why can't there be like a foundation, someone that sets up that can, like, pay for, like, at a reasonable cost to get these kids the therapy they need to work out this PTSD, so where their heart rate's not going up and they actually can progress in the world and thrive.
I mean, look, it's these kids that are, first of all, they take on this journey from Honduras, Guatemala, wherever the hell they're coming from. They take on this journey, which is a ridiculous. It's a journey filled with, danger. And Kamala Harris was just in Guatemala. She just told them, don't come, right? It's like, don't come. But when you go through that, just picking up and going on a trip is scary. I mean, we were talking about how you get on a flight and you're like, if I die with the flight, these fucking kids are fucking going out there unaccompanied on this freaking crazy ass journey, exposing themselves to so much fucking craziness. Yeah, the PTSD is going to be tremendous. And we have a huge population as well on the streets that we don't know what to do with. And a lot of the people on the streets are out there for a myriad of reasons.
But there's a lot of mental health issues.
Correct. And I was just about to say, how much of this mental health could be addressed? How much of this mental health, not to say that all mental health is a spiritual malady, but there's definitely some spiritual maladies there.
I think there's a lot of
that can be, not all of it. I mean, there's people that just have these chemical imbalances that has nothing to do with spirituality or anything. They just have these spiritual imbalances that need to be treated with medication, and that there's no way around it, right? And then there's some people that just need some conversation therapy.
I think that it's so important when you feel like someone's listening to you, but just like really quick, you were talking about the people who are coming. I shared a story on Ache about these Cuban refugees who came in a balsa, who landed in Florida, and everybody's like, I hope that the Coast Guard sends them back and all these things. And I just put, if they're risking their lives, they're going to die of starvation on this boat. They're going to die. They're going to die with no water. They're either going to drown. I mean, this is not like, they're not coming over in the luxury cruise liner. Like, this is a piece of shit raft, right? How bad do you think their situation is that they had to flee and they're willing to die in the middle of the ocean where nobody's going to find them? So those people, they get here, and I know because I obviously have a lot of Cuban friends, they get here, they go to Walmart and they cry because there's no food. We're so used to having so much of everything, and we're so like, I want 100 pairs of shoes, and I want this, and I want that. So definitely I think that there's so much PTSD in everything, right? But especially I think with people who migrate or immigrate, and it's through those channels. I feel really bad for the kids, but I definitely think that some form of help, like what that guy's doing, that sounds totally interesting, and then to try to get, because you're right, nobody can afford, not no one, but a lot of people cannot afford $500 to sit with. How many people don't have insurance? Let's be honest. How many people?
And again, you're doing
insurance?
that twice a week. That's $1,000 a week.
And you're doing it 8 times a month.
That's fucking 5 times $4,000.
$4,000. So, it's you were blessed, and it's helped you, and it's, you know, you'll continue to be blessed. But it's like, if you could find somebody who's of that same mindset to try to bring it to make it more affordable. How many people
could afford Versace? Of course, he can afford therapy.
He's on previous life. So, you know, but if somebody is of that mindset, you what's your Instagram so they can message you, so they can find you? How do you want them to find you?
My Instagram name.
Your Instagram name. Oh, that's funny. I forgot about that. That's funny.
It's funny. So it's kind of funny. It's that THAT_dandy, DANDY _fag with an H, FHAG.
FHAG.
I'm prepared to say that too.
Wait. F what?
FHAG.
FH.
Like that dandy fag.
And I want to say I voted for that name change.
I know. We already talked about it.
Yeah,
remember?
I like that name
but
change.
You made me think of something, and just, I know we're at the end of it, but the most important thing about ketamine and helping people with PTSD is the neuroplasticity. Like the mind after the ketamine is the neurons are able to fire in a new way, and you're able. So that's why the therapy component with the coming back to consciousness is so helpful, because the mind is at its most malleable state. You know, to where the neurons can fire in a new way. You can think
you're
about
literally
things different.
reprogramming.
It's neuroplasticity. Yes, exactly. And ketamine does that specifically by allowing the chemistry in your brain, by allowing those things to happen, so that you're talking about it, you're dealing with it, new neurons are forming around these ideas, and the old ones are closing, and that's the neuroplasticity.
What are the side effects, though, really quick before you go? What is this? Is there, like, what's the negative? Because we talked about everything positive, but what's the negative?
Like, I haven't really heard or read of any. Like, your blood pressure can go up. You have to, be careful with that. I mean, you can't walk or drive after home. You have to take a ride. There's not really any cons that I have found. I've been doing a lot of research.
Insomnia, or
nothing. I mean, it's a pretty clean, easy.
Whenever anybody comes on and starts talking about them doing some kind of drug like that, I'm like, maybe I do need to do ketamine. Maybe I do need to do mushrooms.
I mean, so now your vision going forward is to open up a place that makes this therapy accessible to the masses.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And if we can do them as much as we can.
And what phase of that are you at right now? How soon can we look forward to being able to go visit you and get
waiting for.
And also, am I gonna have to go take some psych meds before I can get me some?
I'll have a follow-up question on the second one, but we're waiting for the right person to come along. So we're asking for introductions to my circle of influence from banking. I'm asking my accountant people and realtor people, and I need psychiatrists. People who share the vision, someone who studied psychopharmacology, maybe Eastern medicine, someone who is into non-traditional medicine, and preferably someone coming out of college who has studied this, who's aware of what's going on in this world, and who shares the vision with us. Like, we know these things can help, we know how to do it. All we need is that one person, that key component in there, to make it happen legally, so that we can put all the rest of it together as a business, and expand it and find other ways to help people. Like we're going to do vitamin drips in there and stuff like that. And when MDMA and mushrooms are legal, what a beautiful thing if we have a space in the infrastructure to be able to administer those.
I know that they're decriminalized. I don't know if they're legal, but I know that they are decriminalized in Oakland, here in California.
Mushrooms?
Yeah. They're not legal, but they're decriminalized.
Oregon?
However that makes sense. And Oregon.
Yeah,
well, Oregon, but here in California.
But Oregon's so weird, right?
Yeah,
because
Oregon
they do medicinal, but not
Colorado.
Yeah,
recreational.
it's weird. It's something.
Because I went to Oregon into a dispensary, and they were like, it's all recreation, not medicinal. So you can't get tinctures. It's all recreational, but not like, we don't sell anything with like. We don't sell creams. We don't sell this. It's all like, they're weird. Yeah, they're really weird.
I don't know about, I couldn't understand it either.
And there's something in San Jose too, right? Because you can go to one city and they'll sell it to you. Another one won't sell it to you. Because I went into
the mushrooms.
Yeah, people are starting to grow it. There's a lot of people that I know.
A lot of people are growing.
It.
You can't even find the growing kits on Amazon right now.
There's growing kits on Amazon?
Of course.
Oh, of course. Oh, of course.
Or just find the cow fields. I mean, and like, when it rains, kick over a piece of cow
I was going to bring
and
Martin some from Costa Rica. And then when I sent the picture, I sent it to someone else we know. And they were like, no, not those. And I was like, okay, I'm going to trust you because I have no clue what I'm doing here. But yeah.
They have them in chocolates now. They have them all over the place.
Well, I'm chubby, so I'll eat anything. So I was like, okay.
My best friend is just accepted into phase 3 for the FDA MDMA trials.
Oh wow!
So we know that's why I just have a really strong.
That's how you know that
I know it's coming.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening. A lot of new ways to help people, new ways to understand how the brain works, and a new life.
And I think it's just a different perspective because these cures, these medicines were attacked and vilified
very much
for so long that like even weed, for crying out loud, there's still people that believe it's one of the worst things.
It's a gateway drug.
People are afraid of CBD.
It's a gateway drug.
People are afraid of CBD, dude. They're afraid of, and it's like, what the fuck? It baffles my mind.
Brainwashing.
It's brainwashing at its finest.
The devil's cigarettes.
Yeah. The devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce. That's
the
what
devil's
it is.
harvest.
I said cigarettes.
The devil's harvest. That crazy thing that drives you insane. Arthur, thank you so much for coming by, dude. It was a pleasure listening to everything that's going on with you. I wish you nothing but the best in your quest to bring this to the masses. If I didn't have to take psych meds in order to qualify, I think I'd be over there signed up.
We all know you would be totally there.
I just don't. I don't want to go take psych meds in order to try to get it. I hope that there's a way where it will become available to not just people who have exhausted their.
Why even go through the pharmaceuticals if we don't have to? I mean,
now, but is ketamine a pharmaceutical?
I mean,
as well?
it is, but I don't box it as like in the same box I do as like OxyContin and so I don't know who makes it. I haven't gotten that far into like the manufacturing of it, but it's not. I don't put it in the same box as the greedy. You're not seeing ads for it on on TV all day long. I see like my grandparents watch regular TV. It's non-stop pharmaceutical ad after ad after ad.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
on TV it's crazy, but you don't see ketamine advertised in that sense. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but thank you.
Dude, it was a pleasure.
It was really nice talking about this with you guys.
And let's see, any closing thoughts? Give me some words of wisdom. Share something that's gonna enlighten us. Just bring some magic.
Oh. What can I tell you in these
Hooter
words
said that we should. He goes because I told him
Hooter would, whatever it is.
So
I just want to say Hooter
we're
would.
talking on Yo about how Brujo 101 is now available out there. So go listen. And he goes, do you guys give recipes for spells?
Oh, we could start doing that.
And
we
then,
could do very small spells.
And then I go,
cool.
No, we don't really do. And he goes, oh, that sucks. I go, why? He goes, because you could then say, follow me for more recipes.
I hate him. But that is super funny. I thought he was going to say that sucks. And I was like, he wouldn't even do it.
No, like follow me for more spell recipes.
Yeah.
Simple, little easy.
Yeah,
That's a great.
we're going to start doing recipes. Maybe drink recipes, but no. I think that everybody's trying to connect to source, whatever that source is. And I think you have to respect people, what they think it is. Like all of us believe something different, right? And I think that whatever works for you, as long as you're not harming anyone, you should explore that if it makes you feel better. That's what I think. I think that just because ketamine works for you, it might not work for me, whatever. But if you're trying to help someone else, that's the magic, right? The magic I can leave you with is try to help one person.
Yeah.
Like try to help one person. I know Arthur, he came to my house, he had a consultation, and it was like, be happy, find it, whatever it is, be happy. Help one person. Your situation, for as bad as you think it is, this is why we send people to feed the birds, right? The birds have nobody feeding them, the wild birds. For as bad as you think your situation is, there's always somebody who's doing worse than you. Help one person. That's it. That's the magic. You're welcome.
Love it.
I think that was beautiful. And for those of you who didn't understand that, just unfuck somebody.
Or fuck it.
Unfuck somebody.
Unfuck yourself.
Unfuck somebody.
Or yourself first.
Unfuck
yourself.
And then unfuck somebody else. And sometimes unfucking somebody else will help you unfuck yourself.
There you go.
And
a lot of fucking going on
Great
here.
fucking analogy.
what's that?
Yeah, unfucking
yourself
someone else is gonna
will
help you.
there you go.
Unfucking yourself is gonna help you.
Unfucking somebody else will
Will help
help
you
you
unfuck
unfuck
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah.
And that's all we want to do.
That's it.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit us with a rate and review if you're listening on iTunes. Please share it with your congregation, with your preacher, with
Share
your
it with
priest,
your-
with your
with your
family.
priest. Thank you.
And not everybody's on a spiritual tip. There's some people that are like, you guys are crazy. You got stones in your pocket. You got crazy crystals. The hell's wrong with you?
We all touch our pockets right now. I was like, what?
The hell is wrong with you guys? Listen, it doesn't work for everybody, but if it works, it works. Many blessings. And Arthur, I'll let you have the closing thought.
A closing thought. Oh, I wasn't prepared for that.
And that's why it's beautiful.
Okay, my closing thought is God is within us and dwells as us.
God is within us and dwells as us.
Yes.
I am my own God.
It's
I
not
do
everything
whatever I
else.
want because I am my own God.
See?
Don't have to worry if it's right or wrong because I am my own God. That's actually a song by
You know what's
Dayglow
up.
Abortions, by the way.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't listen? He's on by who?
Dayglow abortions?
Yes.
Alright.
Share that with your priest too. Thank you. See you guys next time.